Good evening, everybody. I hope you all are doing well on this Saturday night. Finally, getting some fall weather here in Tennessee. It's been quite hot. I was sweating quite a bit yesterday working the bees. Today, it felt really good working them, though, and the weather's been great. Fall flow has not been great. And so we have had to really pay attention to our colonies and make sure to feed. We've been giving patties the last few weeks to try to get a last good push of brood rearing going into winter. Our smaller colonies, our 5 frame size, have very little brood in them. The bigger colonies have probably about 3 to 4 frames of brood max. They're really just starting to shrink down quite a bit. The fall pollens was also very poor, and I don't really know why. Fall honey. All right, Stephen. Well, that's great. Hello from Colorado. We've got Kentucky. Hey, Chris. Hey, that's awesome, man. I appreciate you looking that stuff over, and I'm excited to see your take on it. I've got a couple ideas. Chris is helping us work on a logo for the Hive Life conference, and that's what we're going to be talking about a lot tonight. We're also going to do questions and answers. I won't spend too much time on the conference, but people have been asking questions and curious. And a lot of what we're doing this year will also impact 2023's conference as well. So, kind of building up for long term gains and goals. Hey, Mark. Hardly recognized me with my hair all slicked back. What? No, this is actually kind of the way, like, when I get out and about, my mom, my wife won't let me go in public without looking sharp. Pretty tough, sharp, neat, clean, cool, uptight, all right and out of sight. I think that's the vernacular used in our family. Yeah, no goldenrod here. Usually every fall, I'll have a video where I talk about how you can smell it coming in and the nectar's coming in. I have not smelled that one time. I can't ever remember that. And I thought this was going to be a great fall flow. I don't understand it. I also don't understand why things worked out in spring the way they did, but they were fantastic. There's just so much we don't know about that. The privet flow was almost non-existent, though we had a good poplar flow, and you just never know what's going to happen. And that is why it's so important to get into your colonies, even if it's just a little bit. You don't have to go through and inspect every frame, but see how the food stores are doing. I'm seeing a lot of pictures on Facebook and other places. Beekeepers' hives are too light. And they're like, oh, I thought the fall flow would take care of them. And this is really rough on the bees going into winter because they're holding back. They're not brooding as much as they should have. And that nice big cluster really helps out with most everything, especially taking off when they start brooding in the spring. And if they're a little bit low on nutrition in August, September, especially when they're trying for that late, really hard brood rearing to make that winter cluster, if they don't have the resources, then it's going to be bad. Shane Williams, when do you put entrance reducers in? Just depending on the colony, I'll have entrance reducers in the middle of summer, but I don't put entrance reducers into my colonies for winter. It's not that it's a bad idea or anything. I just don't usually get around to doing it. There'll be an entrance reducer in there of sorts, but it's not to prevent mice. We make sure we go around in any colonies that have perished. We get to them before winter really gets going good and yank those boxes off so they won't be homes to mice and all that kind of stuff. And a good healthy colony will keep mice from getting in there. How is your ground crop coming along? Been watching that to do it up here in Ohio. Okay, Chris, are you talking about the canola? That actually I'm going to do a follow-up video on that. So we've done two, and I was just walking the fields actually today over at my dad's place, and it worked really, really well in areas where the grass was thin. And I sowed it heavier there. In the areas where there was a really nice stand of grass, it didn't hardly come up very well at all. So I really wouldn't say that it's a raving success by any means. If you have really nice thick grass, it's not going to do anything for you. So I'm going to mention that in the video because I don't want some people think, oh man, I can just go out there and broadcast this and it's going to come up like crazy. There had been some mismanagement with my dad doesn't cut the hay. We rent it out. And so just due to some management, I feel like it's left a couple bare spots. And so I was hoping to get a little bit of this sewed in and established and year after year, get a little bit going and try it out and just see how it works and share my experiences with you all. I will keep you all posted. Hopefully in the spring it'll bloom out real good and we'll just see what happens. Let's see. Do you wrap your hives? No, I don't. Never have. I am looking into doing some more insulating up underneath the lid to help the bees out a little bit. That's not necessary here in Tennessee if the colony is healthy. The last video that I did, I addressed some colonies that are we're getting ready for winter. We're going through some hives. We're throwing patties on them. We're feeding them a lot this fall because they're just not getting the real stuff, just not there, and they're great colonies, but they just need a lot of food and they don't need any insulation, but they'll definitely benefit from it. So I'm thinking this year I may try. Last year I did R5 boards, and I like the R5 insulative boards, but I'm thinking to try some R10 and try a few more this year and see how that works. I'm also interested in trying R10 going all the way through our season, through our summer, and just see if I have like a yard of 40 hives and I do 20 with the R10 under the lid and then 20 without. What's the bearding difference between the colonies, and is there going to be other differences as well? We'll see. Yeah, the Appa hives, they definitely don't really need any extra insulation. Where I'm at now, if I was up in the Yukon, I would consider it for sure. But then again, I consider a lot of things. All right, so let's talk about the conference a little bit. Laura Bees actually is one of our sponsors for the conference, and more information will be coming out on those details. A lot of people have been asking who's going to be there, what kind of vendor deals are going to be at the conference, hotels. Let's see. Oh, and the honey show and the bluegrass show and all that kind of stuff. In the next couple of days, I'm going to be releasing a handful of short videos that will have all the information in greater detail with links. We might post some here in just a second or at the end of the video. I'll leave them at the end of this video down in the where you comment, and I'll leave them pinned at the top. We have about 24 vendors right now. We have several really good ones. Whether you're needing insulated hives, woodenware, discounts on basically anything from bottling tanks to vaporizers to boxes, Ultra Bee pollen sub. We should have you covered. We're looking constantly on getting more. I've sent probably 100 emails out this week, and I'm not talking like group messages. We're talking like individualized emails by and large. And I've spent so much time on this conference, and it's all good. We told you we were going to take it up a notch or two, and we're taking it up about 8 to 10 notches. That's the Kamon Reynolds kind of way of going about it. But no, we want to do a good job for everyone who's attending, and also for the people who aren't able to come this year that may want to come in 2023. The advances we make this year will really set the tone for 2023 quite a bit. We have a really good opportunity with a lot of conferences not going on this year to be able to get some of the vendors that we might not be able to on other years and give us a shot. And I know if they'll come, they'll be happy. So if you have a vendor, I've got a vendor list. Actually, let me share that in the comments. If you have a vendor that you want to be there, send this to them or just email them and let them know that you want them there, because it's one thing for me to say, hey, please come to our conference. It's another thing when they know customers and beekeepers are going to be there that would like to see their product on display. And I am going to post this link down here. So there's the vendor information. I just left a link right down there. So yeah, and you can save, a lot of times they'll have conference deals, you can save on shipping, all kinds of stuff like that. One of the ones that I'd really like to be there right now that is on the ropes or on the fence, not on the ropes, hopefully not on the ropes, is a Better Bee. A lot of people are wanting licensed products. We've got a guy who's looking at getting like a $5,000 extraction line from License, which is really cool. And I would love to be able to see it in person myself, even though I don't need it. And even if Better Bee isn't able to make it, and we really hope that they do, because a lot of people are wanting better comb and just different other products that they have. That Dogwood Ridge Bees is going to be there, and they sell licensed products. If there's anybody that wants something licensed, let me know, and or let Better Bee know, which would be just as good. Let's see. Blue Sky Bee Supply is another one who I just emailed a couple days ago, and they said they would get back with me on details. So unless something changes, I think they're planning on being there, and that'll be great. Oh, hey Nathan, it's all good, man. Just however you want to do it. You can email me at hivelifeconference@gmail.com if you'd like to discuss that in further detail, or just try again. Um, the postal service has been a little crazy the last year or two. Yeah, I mean your spot's good. We still have about 75 spots available. We're gonna shut it down because I don't know how big this will get if we don't, and we definitely don't want to hit 1,000 people this year. Just I'm not sure that we're capable of handling quite that many. Let's see here. A lot of questions, a lot of questions. I'm going to get to them here in just a little bit. Just give me a minute. I'm going to go through a couple more things. So, uh, the honey show, it'll be in a video in the next day or two. I There is a beekeeping series on YouTube, and I think it has about a dozen, 15 videos. And I think it's called World's Best Honey. And if you type that in on YouTube, it should come up. And they go through all kinds of processes on how to do show honey, how to pack it, how to make sure that it doesn't have too much stuff in it. And you saw how there were some smudges on that right there. Oh, look at that fingerprint. I don't know if you can see that on your end. That will get you not disqualified, but that will lose you points. And so there's a lot of different things, and some people think that it's silly. I think it's very fascinating, and not something that I've really thought about engaging in. It's not my goal to get blue ribbons all across the world, but I have a lot of respect for people who do it. Rick Sutton, who's going to be one of our commercial beekeeper speakers, and also our honey judge, has been doing it for, well, almost as long as I've been alive. I think he said 85, so that's longer than I've been alive. And the first time he went in and entered honey, I believe he told me his honey was 19.2, which is too high, and that'll cost you points. You really want it, below 18 if possible, moisture content. So there's a lot of tips and tricks, and just typing all this information out and talking to him about it. I've learned a lot of things about honey, and I've also talked to Bob, who's a plethora of information on honey. So I'm excited for you all to meet Bob if you haven't, of course, and Rick Sutton. Most people don't know who Rick is, but I think they're fixing to, because he's a great beekeeper, and I think a lot of people can learn from him. There's also going to be the black jar competition. So if you're really not into really doing things fancy and doing the cut comb and all the other stuff, and you just want to do a strictly judge judging class by taste alone, that'll be available to everybody. Yeah, over 18.5 is disqualified in NC. I think that is what it is in these rules. I really left it up to Rick, because he's got a whole lot. Rick has won a lot of awards, and he knows a lot about it. He's judged at the ABF conference and other places as well, and is very involved in Kentucky. Unfortunately, what's really frustrating about guys like Rick is they've got all these decades of experience running, like 1,000 hives. They bottle and sell honey in stores, and they're good at keeping their bees alive, and they don't really get the attention I think that they deserve. And other people who don't have as much experience do. And some of that's just marketing and networking. That's just the way that it is. They'll let any fool with a YouTube channel talk, let me tell you. But Rick definitely is one of those guys that people need to listen to. Let's see here. Yeah, my colonies, especially the little ones, are starting to shrink a little bit. Well, you have the vendor that supplied your power hive lift. I haven't heard back, Charles, on the Canadian bee lifter, but I'm hoping to. We will have the guy that sells Ian's Easy Loader, that big rig that Ian uses. He will be there, so that's going to be really neat to see that firsthand. Hey Shane, I think you're really going to have a good time. We're going to have Bluegrass Friday night. And there's plenty of room so people who just want to listen at a distance and talk with their bee buddies, that'll totally be able to be worked up. And I've been talking to Ian Stepler and working on different talks that he can do, and also the round table, which I think is the best part, just because it's very candid, and we just take questions and answer them the whole time. And I might have one way of doing it in Tennessee, but Ian can address Canada stuff, and Bob, of course, has all kinds of experience. So let's see. Let's see. Yeah, lots of old bees dying off right now, especially with the carnies that I have. The colonies are starting to shrink back, and they're definitely not brooding near as hard. They're still taking the patties pretty good though, so we're still feeding it to them. I'm fishing and watching Cayman on a boat laptop. Oh, Danny C, you are pretty hardcore. One of these days, I'm gonna have to head out there, and you're gonna have to take me fishing. And do you guys fish the same way we do with hooks and worms, or you guys got a different type of bait, or use dynamite like some of us do in Kentucky, or crazy beekeepers do? Now, as far as the hotels go, I've got a list. Actually, I may have Laurel leave a link for that. So several of you who are already signed up, you can just check those out. I will tell you that about half of them you can go to hotels.com and get like the same deals that they're breaking it down for us. So there are a couple that we did get some good price breaks on them, and we found a bunch that are really close. There's a lot of options. Hey, Laurel, are you able to find that? We'll see. Premier Foundation is going to be there, and they are going to have a really nice price on their foundation. Most of these companies are like this close to be announcing the deals that they're going to have, but they're wanting to get paperwork and promotional stuff. And a couple of them, there's a lot of fluctuations right now in the price of things. Wood is starting to come down. So if they would have given me a price back in September, it probably is higher than what they could offer in November. So we're starting to get stuff trickling in, and if half of what I hear is true, it's going to be fantastic. There's going to be some really good prices on stuff, like I said, from bottling tanks all the way down to frames, foundation, feed supplements, all that stuff. Papua New Guinea. All right. It's coming from a long ways away, Donald. Thanks for joining in. Let's see. Yeah, Premier will be there. I cannot remember what I was thinking right before. Oh, I actually have a meeting with Jeff Johnson, who is one of the main guys with Premiere, is the main guy, and he'll be meeting with me. And who knows, we might shoot a couple videos. That's kind of on the list to do, and we'll be talking in detail about the conference. And Jeff and Premiere is really involved with them. We got to say thank you. That they've done a lot to try to help us um, get some good pricing, and we'll announce that very soon. So we're just trying to compile that together. The vendors that we have right now that are already committed, of course, we got Premier, Dadent, Appa, Kelly's slash Man Lake, Strong Microbials, probably Blue Sky Bee Supply. They said they were planning on it. I'm just waiting for confirmation. Hat Bee Acres, of course, Nature Image Farms, which have bucket feeders and all kinds of different things and plugs. Easy Loader will be there. Laura B Vaporizer will be there, and that's going to be awesome. He's going to be helping sponsor the name tags for the event. And Miller Bee Supply will be there. Horizontal Bees will be there. The folks that made the horizontal hive that I use in the videos. And let's see here. We'll have a bee suit company, Guardian Bee Apparel. So there's going to be some good pricing on those as well if you're needing a new bee suit or a nice vented bee suit. Oxavap will be there as well, so there'll be some other vaporizing options. That's one thing I was thinking is they're going to have the pan vaporizers for those that want maybe have two or three hives and are wanting a slower method or a more inexpensive method. And we have several other options as well. A lot of pending ones. Honeybee Tennessee, which is one of the local, got some local companies going to be there as well. But again, if Laurel, did you just post the hotels? Okay, so Laurel just left a link up there. How many book tickets so far? There's like little under 640, Ian. We're almost to 640. So there's quite a bit, and a lot of people want to hear from you. So no pressure, Ian, but there's a lot of pressure on you to perform. Okay. Sorry. Um, Laurel's shaking her head at me. I get that a lot. So we're gonna cut it off very soon, though. There's no way that we can just keep going, and I feel like there's gonna be a push. There's a lot of people I've been talking to that are on the fence of going or not, and so I feel like that we're gonna max out, which will probably cut it off at 750 people, is what I'm thinking. Let's see here. Wow, that's great. Well, Brian, we're actually going to have it professionally filmed this year. I just don't have the time. Last year we tried to film it and we had some audio issues and just a few other things. And it was really bland. It wasn't good enough. And I wasn't comfortable posting it as it was. This year it's going to be professionally done. And that's going to cost a little bit of money, but I think it'll be worth it because it'll be one less thing I have to worry about. You're renting a U-Haul to bring back all the insulated hives. You said they were going to have an amazing deal. Well, it's Appa May, and we may have two other insulated type of hives too. Superior Bee Co. Last I heard was planning on being there, and they are a U.S. manufacturer of polystyrene hives, and it's single mold, so you don't have to actually do the work of fitting the joints together, and it makes them stronger. And then, of course, Blue Sky Bee Supply has some nice ones as well. So there should be a lot of insulative options for anyone who's going that route. And of course, Appa has their great insulated hives as well. Renting a U-Haul, that's pretty excessive, man. Well, Hilco's actually working right now on a price on some extractors and some bottling tanks at a great rate. And right now, you just think about taking the shipping off of those plus the discounts. And most of the big companies are giving 10% off on everything, but then they're going to have a couple items per company that are really nice pricing. So I think, if you're needing a couple items, you can really save big. Does Ian have his $300 sponsor yet? No, Chad, he doesn't. You know, I, I just posted those the other night, and Ian, I feel like for him, I'd get him like some of those hot hands that hunters use to keep themselves warm. I felt like we would probably put some of that in a gift basket for him. I don't know why. I just think this could be useful. Yeah, Ian. I mean, we're always interested in what you have to say. We even find it entertaining when you whine about the cold weather and the wind. I mean, basically, you can. There's a lot of things you could probably get away with. I'm sure that's a really interesting talk. In all seriousness, there's not a lot of people that speak with a lot of authority on overwintering bees indoors. Let's see here. Let's see here. Looking at some questions and stuff. Mm-mm-mm-mm. So, one of the things that I would also like to hear from you all, and you can email me at hivelifeconference@gmail.com if you have particular topics that you want to hear from a particular speaker. You know who our speakers are by and large, and we are going to try to really give a broad overview of things that we think are going to be the most helpful, splitting techniques, We're really going to try to focus on some Varroa controls and also information from the experimental yard, and also um, what Bob has seen over the years. Rick Sutton does a lot of different treatments with a little bit of Formic every now and then, Thiamol, Apivar. Of course, Ian. If we can all sit up there, I think, talk about it a little bit more, and not only talk about the successes that we've had, but where what has not worked, and maybe get a better strategy in everybody's minds for why it's so important to double check a lot of these treatments. I think the experimental yard has really opened up my eyes, and I actually hope to have the information. I will have the information released before them. The goal is November, giving a presentation in Iowa with it, and I'm hoping to have that recorded to share with everybody through the conference recording. Righty, and well, that's kind of my thoughts. Indoor wintering topic might not be the best, probably for this general area. I've got a couple really good ideas, and it's not that it wouldn't be any good. It's just I overwinter bees with a 3/4 inch lid outside, and I can get a good 5 frame nuke to overwinter in a single here. Let's see. There's an Amish-owned polystyrene hive seller in Central Ohio called Superior. It's Amish owned. I did not know that. Watching you from an Air Force base in Saudi Arabia. Thomas, I really appreciate your service. My brother is visiting me this weekend, and he's in the Air Force as well. And, we really appreciate you very much. We appreciate anybody who's watching that serving this country in that capacity, even if they are in the Navy. Um, sorry, some family jokes there. Yeah, I have contacted Superior B, but then again, there's a lot of companies that I've probably overlooked. So just if you think of any company that you've thought, I really like this company, they need to get the word out so they can stay in business or get more business, whatever. Send them that vendor information, and they can send us an email at Hive Life, or you can send us a message at Hive Life conference at gmail.com, and we'll send a message to them. Puerto Rico. So can you ship queens? I guess you can probably ship queens to the U.S. from Puerto Rico, then, huh? And produce January queens. Well, if you do that, Chad, you need to. I need to go do some more videos with my buddy Zach in Hawaii. That's basically what he does: January and February queens for the commercial guys. Oh, retired Navy working for the Air Force. Typical Kamon Reynolds putting my foot in my mouth. Of course you have a history with the Navy. Whoops. Oh well. Hi-Fi, you're not the only person from Kentucky that I have heard say that the white asters are making some flow going up there in Kentucky, but I am just not seeing anything here. I mean, literally nothing. There's a couple yards that we've been behind on feeding, and man, you can really tell it. You can tell a big difference. There was no fall flow this year. I don't get it. I'm not going out right now and seeing a bunch of pollen coming in during the days, and there's sunny days. I don't get it. And it's not like we've had a frost either. Is it too late to treat with Formic Pro getting into the 40s at night? It's not too late to treat with it, Vince, but if the damage has already been done by the mites, then it is. But there are beekeepers that I know who keep the mites very low all season long and then do a fall cleanup in October with Formic Pro. I don't have really any experience treating this month, but it's something that I want to test in the future. But there are guys who do it in Tennessee and really like it. Hey, Cayman, how late slash cold can you keep feeding bees? So 2 to 1 is what we're starting to use now. Um, yeah, Byron, I talked to you the other day. Yeah, fall flow here. Um, it didn't even show up. It wasn't even a bust. There was nothing to bust. Um, but as far as feeding late here in Tennessee, I feel like you can feed 2 to 1 till November. Some people say even past that. I get into my colonies late September and heavily check them. and see what's going on. I mean, I check them in mid-September too, and it's just important to really know what's going on because there can be flowers all out there, and there was this year. There's tons of gorgeous flowers. We had a great stand, healthy plants from all the summer rains, but they never produced the nectar that our bees needed. And if you don't get into the hives and you just assume that, you lose colonies or you end up with weak colonies going into winter, and the varroa might be low, but you've got to have that nutrition, or the queen just will be throttled down, and instead of ending up with an 8 to 10 frame cluster of bees, you end up with a 4 or 5 frame cluster of bees. And which one do you think has a better chance of survival and thriving? So um, if you're in this area, I'd say you can feed into late November, especially if you're using a bucket feeder. That's one of the main advantages of bucket feeders, is that bees will take them in cooler weather and colder weather. One of the disadvantages of them, though, is if they blow off or fall off in that weather and it rains in on your bees, well, that's not good. So Ian doesn't seem to have that problem, and he feeds with snow on the lids half the time. So you can feed pretty late. There's a lot of debate on that, but I have fed in December before, and I don't like feeding with sugar bricks and all that kind of stuff. Not because the bees won't take them. It's just they don't take them as good. They want it in the combs, and it works best that way. And when the bees are able to take that syrup in and work their magic and change it and make it better for them, it's just a better way to feed. So, but get in there, be diligent, and get it done now, as soon as possible. No time like the present. Let's see. Oh, Cayman, what is in the tank behind you? Laurel has a couple anoles. She has a green anole, and then she has a brown anole in there. And Laurel's quite the critter person, and critters like her, after they get used to her, usually their heartbeat's about ready to bust out of their chest when she first catches them. Those poor little lizards freak out. One I can't One's named after the lizard in Rapunzel, and the other one's named Houdini because he is an escape artist. It's really impressive. Laurel's coming in here, giving me the look because I'm telling everyone her dark secrets. That's what they're cute little lizards, and a lot of times, like when I'm grilling on the porch of a night, be grilling hamburgers and all that kind of cool stuff because I love to grill deer meat marinated in honey. Ooh, that is good. And there'll be moths flying around. And I'll grab one and give it to Laurel, and they'll throw it in there, and it's like a sheep thrown amongst lions. It's just they go crazy over them. Cayman, have you seen a huge small hive beetle spike in the last 2 weeks? Oh yeah, small hive beetles are all over the place, and they're coming out of the woodwork. They've been into the fruit. So for those of you who don't know, small hive beetles love, and I know you know this, Hank, but small hive beetles love fallen fruit, pears, apples, anything like that, persimmons. And but when it's all that stuff starts going away or it's not available, they will obviously look for a hive. It's a perfect location. You have room and board right there, and you have even a thermostatic. I can't say anything tonight. You got heating in there as well. The bees keep it warm. So this time of the year, they really flock to the hives, and it's a real big pain in the butt. Feeding 2 to 1 right now. One hive sucked down 30 pounds in 5 days. I believe it. That means they're probably a good hive too. Little hives can't take it in that quick. Yeah, 2 to 1 won't freeze on you. Well, it'll freeze, but it's not freezing in Tennessee, and I doubt it'll freeze anywhere. That's I don't know. Maybe it'll freeze up where Ian's at if it's really cold outside. It probably will, but it's too late to feed at that point. Hey, Bradford stringed instruments. Hey, what type of music do you play, Bradford? I play mandolin. Turn 2 packages into 4 colonies with queens made in here, North Carolina. Is this a good time to use Appa Guard? You can use Appa Guard this time of the year. I don't know where you're located, though. You need to read the instructions on it because those products are temperature sensitive, and maybe at a certain low temperature, it's not as efficient or maybe not even good. But if you're in Tennessee right now, it's still in that temperature range. We're still getting 70s and 80s. I think today only got to 67, so it was really nice, but it's going to get back up in the 70s again and get a couple 80-degree days. I think it's Sahil honey and apiaries. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Um, so you're in the Himalayan region of India. Well, thanks for coming on. And I don't have a lot of experience with probably the type of hornets that you're dealing with, but we do have European hornets here, and they're quite large, and they do really impact colonies. There's only two things that I know of to do, and when we've had European hornet problems in the past here, which they're probably about, I don't know, about that long, maybe a little bit longer. They're quite huge, and they'll just chip at the colony's percentage all throughout the season, and especially late in the year can be a big problem if there's a nest close by. Keep reduce the entrances down a little bit. So I don't know if you've seen the Appa entrances where it keeps where the hornets cannot go into the hive. So if you have Japanese hornets or a type of hornet that will actually go in the hive very aggressively, then you need to have an entrance where they can't get in there physically. And then the next step would be to find the nest and destroy it, which I'm sure you're aware of. And that can be easier said than done. There also is some baits that you can use out there, like oils. Like you can take meat and get a plastic jug and create a meat trap. Honeybees really aren't attracted to meat. I know with yellow jackets it works really good, and you don't want to use something sugary that will draw the bees in. But if you can get some rotten meat or something, maybe that'll attract the hornets and get them in a trap where there's a funnel they can go in, but they can't get back out. It's really the only options that I know of. Um, I hope that you find a solution for that. Yeah, Laura bees basically just if you find the nest, let them have it. Let's see here. Does putting powdered sugar on them help with small hive beetles? Not that I'm aware of. I don't think the powdered sugar does anything to small hive beetles. I mean, it'll probably drive them and push them down out of the hive for a little bit. All right, so Raven Stars in Middle Tennessee. Middle Tennessee. Thanks for coming on. And so you had a colony swarm in early October. That does happen. I've had a couple of those, and they have three queen cells. Is there a good chance of one of them will come out? There's not a great chance that they will go out and mate and come back. But there is a chance, and I've seen it happen this time of the year. There's not a lot of drones, but you were only talking one queen here. I had a buddy of mine who I really trust quite a bit who said he had a queen that was mated towards the end of November. And now I've never had that happen before, but I have had queens mated well in September that I've made personally. So there is a chance of it happening. However, the colony could be fairly weak at that point. So just kind of keep an eye on it. And if it doesn't work out, unfortunately, you probably need to paper combine that colony with another one if you have it. Hey mate, do you checkerboard your frames to increase comb building? If so, when is the best time to do that? All right. So I don't do checkerboarding as much as some beekeepers do, where they get really aggressive as far as brood management. But he's talking more about honey production, from what I understand. And this year, I did explore that route more. I had a video on it where we took a couple frames of foundation and we put them in between frames of comb. Ian Stepler, who was on here earlier, also talks about that. And one of my good beekeeping buddies in Tennessee and the Memphis area, Gus Mitchell. I mentioned him a few times. Also, he's a friend of mine on Facebook. He does the same thing, and it works very good. Obviously, you got to have a good flow. Um, so, what I did this year is a couple different options, and I took out of 9 frames drawn combs in a box. I took 2 of them out, and then I had 7 drawn combs, and I had 2 frames of foundation that I put in the middle, sandwiched them together, and then I kept the spacing a little bit closer on the combs up to the foundations, not quite where it was butted all the way up against it, and that worked really good and got made 2 good combs per box. And there were some that I did a little bit more than that. What I did Fred is most of the time is I would have, like, say you have 4 medium supers. So if I put 2 or 3 in each one, and there's several different ways to do this, over the course of all of those, you can get a box of drawn combs. Some people are more aggressive about doing it. I find that obviously they draw them better in the center of it than towards the outer edges. And one thing that I did a lot this year, now this takes extra work. So if if you're running a big production, this might not help you. But if you have the time, this can work really good. Is okay, you're like, I've got two in this one, two in this one, whatever you have. They're filling up the combs full of honey. They're drawing those new foundations in the middle. And when they're halfway drawn with the foundations, yank them out. They've got them started good. You can put some of those combs back in if you need to. And now you just have a whole box that you put together of foundations with the partially drawn ones. And since they're partially drawn with little bits of nectar in them, the bees have accepted that area and they're going to finish that out really good. And then when the honey flow is done, we as quickly as possible yank those supers off. And any of them that are still foundations are left on. All the honey is taken out of that box and extracted. And we just then we feed, and get the rest of those foundations completely drawn. It's a great way to get that comb production up because that's what's one of the hardest things new beekeepers face or expanding beekeepers face is a lack of drawn comb. Let's see. Crimson Tide 21 to 6. Michael, I appreciate the update. And you asked earlier about the striped kitten. The kittens that were in our videos, we have a lot of coyotes around here. That's the only thing I can figure is where they went. They were being well taken care of, and a lot of we have coyotes that howl right outside. I mean, I'll shine a flashlight, and they're in the field across from my house, 40 feet, 60 feet away from the house. They're pretty bold. Don't cause any problems with humans, but um, yeah, too many of them. So oh, where's the American flag? Well, I've got it flipped around today. So because of the conference, I've got just like paperwork laid all over the place, and I've got a big table in here now, so I can lay it out. And we've had to do a lot of other paperwork related. So I have an American flag. It's just facing this way on the wall. Usually, I'm twisted around like this, and so that's why you can't see it. The American flag will always fly at this house. Do you think it's possible to bank 3 queens over winter? Possible, possibly. High chance of success? Not really, and I'm not an expert at banking queens in general, much less over winter. There's a lot of research that has been done on banking queens, and I am not an expert at all. Cayman, is it just me or has the fall flow been terrible? And do you like frame feeders or top feeders for singles? If I was going to use a single, a top feeder would be better just because you can get extra combs in there. But if it's a small single, you could use a frame feeder. The biggest issue with frame feeders, though, is if it's the syrup gets cold and it's off to the side, they're slow to take it down. That's one of the advantages of the top feeders is they can warm it up a little bit and cluster around it and they'll take it a lot better. But the fall flow, Randy, has been almost non-existent in my area, which is just mind-blowing. It's not like I'm expecting to take off a crop. It's just I'd like to see the bees fatten up a little bit on the real stuff, and it's expensive to feed. Speaking of feeds, I'll be speaking in a couple places. I'll be speaking the 23rd, so just a week from today at Kelly's up there in Clarkston, Kentucky. And there will be a couple other speakers, Jake Osborne, who I've been told is really good, and a couple. I think I'll be doing 3 courses up there, and they have like 10% off store wide on almost everything, and a couple um, giveaways and raffle type stuff or whatever it is. I can't remember what all they're doing, and there's some hands on stuff as well. So if you want to come up there, it's free and you can hang out and talk bees to your heart's content and maybe load up on some stuff that you were needing. I'll also be speaking in Iowa, November 12th and 13th, the Iowa Honey Producers Association. So if you're nearby and like to go to that, that was could be fun. Sugar is expensive. Any recommendation for the small scale beekeeper? Hope the fall flow is good, Jason. I just fed 3,000 pounds of 2 to 1 this last week. It's expensive. It's very expensive. And I'm thinking when I go up to Kelly's here next week, I'll probably go ahead and take a couple empty totes with me and get about another 600 gallons or so of syrup. If you buy Pro Sweet in bulk, it's still not cheap, but it's not as expensive as buying as like a 5 gallon bucket, which is exorbitant. Um, Sometimes you can find discounted prices. Maybe Kroger or some store will do a big slashed sale on sugar for the holidays. So watch out for that. A lot of times around Thanksgiving, these stores will try to get people to come in and buy a lot of groceries for Thanksgiving and their own, turkeys and things. And so they'll have some products like sugar on sale, and you can get it for like 25 cents a pound for, like that week only or something like that. So watch out for those sales. And yeah, so I think at Walmart, and it depends on your Walmart, I can get it in the 40 something cent range. When I go to Clarkson, I'm going to find out what the bulk price is on syrup. And I think if you get a 55-gallon drum and take it up there to fill up, you can get a halfway decent price. We'll have to see. Sugar has gone up quite a bit, and it's really annoying. And like this fall flow, I would love not to have to feed very much, but you have to. And it is expensive. But if you keep your bees healthy and we have a good year like we did this year, most of our good honey production colonies did over 100 pounds, 100 pounds of honey. We sell it for $5 a pound, $6 a pound, seven, depending on the size of the jar. You can buy a lot of feed for that. And you just hope that your fall flow is good so you don't blow a lot of your profits on syrup. But you got to take care of those bees. 25 pounds for less than $12. Hope Sadler says. So that's a pretty good price for sugar right now. That's not a great price, but that's some places are spending 50, 60 cents a pound. Some places are in the 30-cent range, 40-cent range. Let's see here. Hey, Wayne Watson. Yes, I do have information on the conference. Laurel posted it just a little bit ago. Laurel, if you're listening, go ahead and post that again for Wayne Watson, and anyone who's wanting to look. You can also check at hotels.com. Most of the hotels are very reasonable. I think with taxes, I think there's one that's below in the 50 range with taxes, and there's several that are like in the 60 range, and there's some that are more expensive. We try to have a wide range per night, and that's with the taxes and fees. Pretty reasonable, I think. And they're all like within a couple miles, 1 or 2 miles. There is one on the site, but it is pricey, and they would not work with us much on a price deal. And the reason it's so expensive is because they have a huge indoor water park, and they get a lot of tourist attraction over that during the winter months, and so they're very reluctant to drop the price down. I still feel like they could have done better. So here is a link to the vendor information. Anyone who has a vendor they'd like to see there, send them that. All right. Let's talk about that just a little bit. So we're gonna have this year a couple different things. Um, for those of you who went, obviously the honey show. Many of you may just want to do the black jar competition. That's fine. I will be releasing all this information in individual videos into more detail because it could take a while if I did all the information here. But Laurel's going to be given a list of the hotels. There's the vendor information. We are a very young and new conference, and so if any help that you all would, if you want to see someone there, let them know that you want to see their products at our conference, and that they can email me or give them that vendor information. Especially if we want to see someone like Better Bee, who does not do a whole lot of conferences. It's really too bad. They have a lot of neat stuff, and they really don't want to do it. And I think they're concerned that they won't make any money at our conference, but or at least not make it a break even. I think that's basically what I heard. They're concerned they won't break even. I think they're pretty narrow sighted. Uh, the guys that came last year are excited to come back this year because they made good money. And we don't charge thousands of dollars for a booth space like the American Beekeeping Federation. And we still are going to have, well, there's over 600 and something people signed to come up right now. We're cutting it off at 750. And we also have our speakers and people taking some of those places. So if you're wanting to come, we're starting to run out of room. And we have way more room than that, so it's not gonna be like we're all sardines in there, but that's the point. We're trying not to make it really crowded and everyone can have space and the vendors can have plenty of space. Yeah, Better Bee has some great stuff. One of the things that I like most about Better Bee is they have some innovative products. The Better Comb, it's not like I'm going to be buying it because I don't need it. I have plenty of comb and I can get bees to draw it. However, it's still something new. It's innovative. And for some people in the right position, I could have seen myself buying that several years ago when comb was at a premium for me and I didn't have access to it. And they have other products that I would really like to try. They have those feeder buckets with the screens in them. I think that would be a great selling. It's very similar to what Ian uses. It would be awesome to have that there. It'd also be great to have licensed products. Now we do have Dogwood Ridge that's going to have license. If anyone who's wanting license, send me an email. Let me know what you're wanting. I may be able to get it for you there through Dogwood Ridge. And if Better Bee's not able to make it there, ET's bees, $5 a pound of honey. That's pretty good. Yeah, I'm happy with that price. Now we are getting a little bit more than that if we do some smaller jars. So um, especially the quantity that we're selling, that I'm very happy with that. Betterby told me it's too far away and they would have to fly. Well, see, that's ridiculous because I have someone driving from Canada with an easy loader that Ian uses to move thousands of hives a year coming down to the conference. So I have a hard time believing them when they say that they can't drive from New York to our conference. Now, maybe there's some type of New York law that won't allow them to do that right now. But, other than that, which that'd be crazy if there was, you know, uh, I mean, and even if they did fly, flights aren't that expensive. I mean, they're expensive, but goodness, Dave, you're not talking about buying a $200 piece of equipment either. So, anyways, it's silly. But how many of you have ever seen Better Be at a conference or an event? Anybody, please comment down below. I think they've gone to the American Beekeeping Federation and one or two of the really big ones. Yeah. Let's see. Nobody so far. Hey, Jerry Wilson. It was good to see you in Lebanon the other day. Hope your all of your life savings wasn't spent at Target. My wife, there's no way we would have this. And I know you're teasing, Jerry, but there's no way we would have this business if Laura was not very frugal. She is a very frugal spender, and I never worry about her blowing our money. Um, Actually, I'm the one I'm concerned about blowing our money on too much bee gear, for sure. So I have to get the boss's approval before I can buy stuff. But know that she loves Target, and the kids do too. And she even got me a bar of my favorite chocolates. So I mean, she's pretty awesome. Well, Bonnie, well, maybe Blue Sky will change their mind, and if they're not able to make it, then I've got sounds like Superior poly hives will be there. So I guess at least some type of poly hives there for sure. Let's see. Yeah, it's well, there's several of you that are saying this is your first event, and I've got to be kind of honest. I haven't ever been to like the ABF or the big conferences, but at the same time, when I look at a lot of these bigger conferences, um, all the keynote speakers are researchers, and it's great. I mean, I like researchers. I'm looking in next year. I'm planning on having two rooms going at once and having it recorded, so we can get a couple of the really good researchers. Some of the guys down in Florida do some really cool research. And I just sent an email off to Paul Kelly up with the University of Guelph. So I'm hoping that we can have him in 2023. And we've got a couple other guys I'm sending emails to that are researchers, but they're also really good beekeepers. I think that's what separates Paul Kelly and some of these like guys like Jamie Ellis from the pack is they're really good researchers. They're also good speakers, which helps a lot. But they're also really good beekeepers. And I'm really not interested in having people get up and talk and try to teach people how to keep bees if you can't keep bees yourself. Because I mean, that's what we're all trying to do is keep our bees alive, right? And our bees are facing a lot of issues, and we're really behind the eight ball. The mites know what they're doing, and the viruses are really good at what they're doing. We still don't even know how all of our treatments work really well. We're really behind the eight ball, and it's only going to be through collaboration of people who are really passionate about research, passionate about bees. And, for those of you who watched the video interview I did with Entian the other day, he doesn't keep hundreds of hives. He doesn't have a PhD. That research is really good. And it really goes along with a lot of some of the other stuff that I've seen. And I think we need to see a lot more of that kind of stuff. I would like to have him at our conference at some point. So if you ever run into a guy you'd like to hear speak at our conference, let us know. But we're always interested in making it fun. So Richard, yes, it will be professionally recorded this year. Last year, I wasn't able to do it really good. Let's see here. Yeah, it will be recorded. I've got a guy who's also supposed to be editing it. Now, this is going to cost several thousands of dollars to do, so the copy of it won't be free, but I believe that we'll be able to have it at a very, very reasonable price. Yeah, I know you got me some good mangoes. Hey, can you post the information to Ticket Taylor on here? So Laurel's going to leave a link down below. Someone asked about how you could find information to sign up and stuff. Hey, ETs, Bees, thanks for coming on again. We'll see you. Laurel's going to leave a link down below on how you can sign up or at least look into the information. All right. Hmm. Yeah, Jim Hughes. Let me know which hotel that is. At Hive Life Conference at gmail.com and let me know who they are. And I've had some issues with one of the hotels. You talk to one person and they're setting you up in the block, and you talk to somebody else and they have no clue who we are. Um, it's really hard sometimes to deal with people. All right. Silly question. Would bees take maple syrup? They will take it, but it's not good for them to overwinter on. There's too much mineral content in maple syrup. Now, if you fed that to them during a period of the year where they could get cleansing flights a lot and they were very active and brood rearing and burning through it, it may be okay. I wouldn't risk it. I've seen bees work maple sap before, but during I just it's really not a good idea. If you've got maple syrup, eat it yourself and get them some sugar and water. It's better for them than the maple syrup is. Swamp Crawler, can you take Ian Stepler in a fight yet? He's a year older since the last time someone asked. So thanks for the donation and for the interesting comment, Swamp Crawler. I have not. I have not asked Ian to fight. I don't think that Canadians probably fight fair. I know they talk about being friendly people, but I don't know. Maybe Ian's just a weird Canadian, but he doesn't strike me as someone. I think being a farmer and having to crawl and through all the muck of farming and all the hard work, I just don't think he's going to play fair. So I play fair. I just don't know. He's bigger than me too. He's a lot bigger than I am. I think. Um, don't take that the wrong way, Ian. You're just taller than me. And you gotta put on some, a little bit of weight maybe for winter too. It gets cold up there. Anyways, I wanna shut up before Ian actually does beat me up. But no, we're really excited to have him and, his wife come on down. It's gonna be a lot of fun. It's gonna be so nice, to get to meet Ian in person. It's weird when you make fun of someone so much and you've never met them before. So this is going to really give me some opportunities to know Ian better, which will give me a lot more material to go with in the future. Hey Cayman, I messed up on an oxalic acid treatment, killed a bunch of bees and queen, says Caleb. Hey Caleb, what were you using? Were you using vapor or were you using oxalic acid dribble? Let's see here. Oh, Laurel up there posted the information with Ticket Taylor if you all were wanting to see how to sign up or just information on the conference. I also saw where, oh goodness, where'd it go? Okay, you said Jim Hughes that it was the wilderness. Well, I have an email from them. However, Jim, if you go to hotels.com, you should be able to get the same price. They gave us the same price of the wilderness that hotel.com did. And that is the one connected right to the conference. You can walk out of that hotel, basically be outside for 10 seconds, and you're going into the conference hallway. So you're right there. It's a little bit more pricey, but you get free water slides and it's got one of those big tubes and stuff. So I know all you beekeepers are really big into your indoor water parks. Comes with the hotel. Let's see. So Caleb says vaporizer made from copper tubing. Okay. I don't know how you would have done that. I have really treated mine really hard. Is there any more details that you can give? Because I've used it so much and so many other people have. And unless the bees are like a swarm that hasn't settled or something outside is wrong with them, if they're a healthy colony, it shouldn't cause them to abscond like that or kill them outright unless you've completely cut off all their oxygen somehow. Yep. Fixing to do so, hi-fi. If, let's see. There we go. Huh. I was hearing a sound out there, and that's my neighbor. He's planing some cedar wood. That's what it is. I'm like, what is that buzzing? Sounds like there's a bee outside my window going crazy. 15 minutes close. The only thing, Caleb, I can think of is that it have to be a lack of oxygen. If it's a strong, healthy hive, I've treated thousands of hives with it and closed them up. Never all the way, but some pretty good bit of the ways. But and I've done some pretty heavy doses too. All right, Bama 28-6. Thank you for the update, Chris. Roll Tide. Will Maxent be at the conference? Maxent themselves, Thomas, will not. However, I've got two vendors right now, one of them being Rossman Apiaries and another who are talking about being there, and one of them's very serious. So I'm really trying to get Maxent there. Maxent is very reluctant because they are so many months behind on orders right now. And that's what happens when you live in the communist state of Massachusetts, I think. And that's why they're sending Smith and Wesson to Tennessee. So that will definitely be appreciated here, let me tell you. And I think that they will do quite well. It's too bad that much history in the state of Massachusetts is gone, though, but we will take it. Um, that was getting a little off topic there. Laurel, someone was requesting a link for the Laura B vaporizer. And but Maxent is our plan to at least have some of the material there. But I really could use some help. We're such a new conference. If you're really wanting to see something there, send an email to the company. You sending it to Rossman apiaries would really help. Sending it to Maxent would really help. I was trying to get a wax melter at Maxent the other day. They're like, we can't do custom orders right now. They only have small little setups right now, which it's fine. I mean, people need those too, but I need a big one, and they won't do those orders right now. They're too far behind. They need more people in the warehouse working, and more product needs to be getting to the companies as well. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it could be bad OA maybe, but I doubt it unless you got some really weird stuff. I mean, even the stuff from the store, like a hardware store is, you know, pretty pure oxalic acid. I mean, it could be. So Earl Baker's needing an address to mail the check for the conference. I will leave that down below. All right. Now, the bluegrass band, I'm actually going to be playing a few of the songs with them. I've played with them in the past. We've won some state championships, and one of them has played on the Grand Ole Opry several times. Well, actually, two of them, I should say, and some just really skilled musicians. It's going to be a nice show. It'll be about 50 minutes long. Won't be too long. Um, Good music and relaxing times. There'll be plenty of opportunities to be able to probably chat with guys like Bob and Ian during the music, and Mr. Ed or Randy or several of the other guys are going to be there. We've got several people there that are coming that I'd like to actually have as speakers. We just don't have room for them this year. They may be speakers next year. We've got a oh goodness, the fellow from Missouri that talks on VSH. I can never remember his name. Oh, Laurel beat me to it. Yes, it will be, Sray. I like I said earlier, I'll be doing a conference in November. The plan is to have all of the information and data collected and presented there, then recorded, and then have that to where you guys can watch it on YouTube and see what the results were between the thiamol and the oxalic in the control group, which spoiler alert, the control group is not doing very good. But it usually doesn't. Actually, it always doesn't. Yeah, Shane, I'm afraid. Oh, okay. Ian says doesn't freeze up. 2 to 1 doesn't freeze up, but it turns hard as an ice block. Okay, there's your answer. Oh, really? Is that honey? Got a carameled apple in here. Oh my goodness! I know what I'm going to be doing here in a little bit. Yeah, I've been using 2 grams per deep box, and sometimes it gets a little heavy handed, so it might be 2.5. Yep, Mr. Ed here. Mr. Ed here. I never can quite do it. I need to get a T-shirt made that has Mr. Ed's grin on it and Bob's hair part. That would be hilarious. Mm-mm-mm. I was wondering if you give me some helpful advice for this time of the year. Paige, Texas B says, "Well, you got to ask the question, Paige. Hit me with it." All right. I was wondering if you'd give me. Oh, is there a list of current vendors? So, like I said earlier, we got Kelly's slash Man Lake. They're going to have a nice discount on dry and pattied Ultra Bee, and they've talked about having like their version of Honeybee Healthy Pro Health on discount as well. Premier Foundation will be there. They're going to have a nice price on their plastic foundation. And the more orders, pre-orders that we get, so like they're and this will be released soon. Almost all of these big companies are ready to release pre-orders. So the more pre-orders that we get, the on some of these guys, the better of a discount that we're going to get. Strong Microbials will be there. Um, Appa, Dadant, and some of these guys are going to be focused on getting frames brought at a discount. Easy Loader is going to be there. Laura B's vaporizer is going to be there, so there's going to be some nice vaporizers. Miller Bee Supply, Horizontal Bees will be there, so there'll be opportunities. And right now, if you contact Horizontal Bees and you want one of those horizontal hives, you can get $100 off and free delivery to the conference on one of those horizontal hives. And he just commented, so and they're made 100% in the USA. So I mean, what more can you ask for? I almost said something, and I'm not going to say it. I'll probably get censored from YouTube. Guardian Bees will be there with the bee suits. We'll have Oxavap there as well. Oh, let's see. Dogwood Ridge Apiaries is going to be there. They're going to be bringing licensed stuff. They also make their own wood and ware equipment. Hillco Beekeeping will be there. They're going to have some awesome prices on some extractors and some bottling tanks. So if you're in the need of a bottling tank, you may just have a really good price on those right there. There's going to be some other pollen sub companies coming. The Hive Butlers. Um, I've heard that they were coming. They're supposed to get back with me. A couple smaller companies as well going to be there. A lot of people kind of. I just sent the information to the vendors that I just posted earlier 4 or 5 days ago. So I've had a lot of verbal commitments, but now I'm waiting for them to actually register and then also get me the information on the discounts. But if you're wanting to see somebody there, contact them. Let them know. But I will have a list soon, and most everything's going to come together in November because a lot of them are trying to put together packages and they're also figuring out who's coming and how much they're going to bring. And I'm having to go back and forth with some of these. Some of these companies are awesome to work with. I'm like, hey guys, this is what I'm looking for. And they're like, we can do that for you. And then there's a couple of them, and some of them have the most money to spend are like, well, what if we do this? I'm like, nobody uses that product. Why do we need that on discount? So there's going to have to be a little bit of work done on my end trying to get some cool stuff there. All right. Yeah, Corey Stevens. There you go. That's the guy from Missouri. Hilco will have pre-orders on a lot of different things. Free shipping. They're planning on like 10% on like everything from what I've been told. But then there's going to be a couple items that are special discount, and those won't get the 10% off in addition, but they'll be better than 10%. Um, Hilco's got a new line of bottling tanks they're planning on having at the event, so that will be really interesting to see those. How many rounds of OA would you recommend? So 2 rounds in December is what I do. When the bees are broodless, I still do 2 rounds, and I think you're going to find out why. I felt that way for a long time, but I think we're going to learn more about why that it's important to do that. Bob did 3 rounds, if I remember correct, last winter. It's just such an opportune time. Make those mites pay in winter time and get them down. Let's see here. Lately, my bees have collected pollen from goldenrod here in Page, Texas, and I wonder how long goldenrod stays alive. Well, there's multiple varieties of goldenrod, and so you get a little bit of an extended flow most of the time when the weather conditions and the soil conditions are right. And so you can get a flow for multiple weeks with goldenrod, and hopefully there's other plants contributing as well. But a lot depends on, did the plant get enough rain? Did it get too much rain? If it didn't get enough rain, the amino acid content goes down in the pollens, making it, basically more worth less to the bees. They can collect a lot of pollen, but if it's not nutritionally in it insufficient, then it's a problem. So there's a lot of variables there. If you feel like your bees need more to help boost them brood wise, you can try a hive or two with some pollen patties and see if that'll complement. And that's what we're doing right now is we're feeding pollen patties because our fall flow's not been hasn't been good. So we throw that in there and kind of make up maybe for a lack of nutrition or quantity or quality. And that really helps those colonies just kind of get that good winter force going into winter. Let's see here. All right. Thanks for the update, Yvonne. Roll Tide for sure. Hey, Dry Cut Homestead. Dry Cut was the guy that in our vaporizer giveaway that we had a couple weeks ago, he was the winner. Glad that you got your vaporizer. And yeah, I think you're going to like that Laura B vaporizer. It was really nice of Laura actually reached out to me and asked if we wanted to do that. So, that we did the video, but that was supplied technically by the company. Um, and so, I can't take all the credit for that. Basically, I just ran my mouth and Laurel shot the video. It's the story of my life. All right. Okay. Speaking of Laurel, I was getting some advice, which when Laurel speaks, I listen or suffer the consequences. Hey, Cayman, I won't be able to make the conference. You think I can pre order and get it shipped to my house from Man Lake? I don't think so, Jeff. That they're pretty strict. You can call and ask. I don't know. Maybe maybe they will. But I do know that most of the time it's just inside the building conference only. And right now we just don't have the capability and the personnel to be able to individually, have people coming just for the vendors. We're looking into that and a couple other options. I'm really excited about 2023 because really we started the idea of this conference 1 year ago, October. So we haven't hardly had any time to brainstorm in comparison to what I'd like to have. And now that we have had time to work on this one coming up, it's going to be, if you went to the last one, it's going to be way better. One, because last year Randy Oliver and Ian were both through Zoom. Zoom's not very fun compared to meeting the person live and also getting those live interactions. That was the best part. Is a couple of stories that Bob had during the roundtable. I about busted a gut. It was hilarious because Bob's humor is so dry and mine's not. And Williams was up there too, and Kent will be back again this year. And Bob's dry humor, it just kind of, you don't see it coming, just smacks you right in the back, and it's really funny. Hey, Thomas, Hannah, tickets are still available. I think there's probably about 75 left or something like that. So we're getting, let's see, no, a little bit more than that, a little bit more than that, but I'm pretty confident we're going to sell them for sure. Does Laurel get tired of being stung while filming you? Absolutely. Okay, Laurel says about 100 tickets left. So there's your answer. Don't why bother asking me anything? I don't know. When it comes to that stuff for sure. Mm. Hey, Cayman, you should try the Freeman Beetle Trap bottom boards and powdered sugar your hive. Cannot believe how effective it is against killing the beetles or killing or checking mite loads. It's something to look into, Randy. And I've mentioned this before. And sorry, a comment kind of caught me off guard. So I need to do that. We're making some transitions. The goal is to be able to focus more on YouTube, and it's not really something I was planning on doing, but we can't run 400 hives and run a serious YouTube channel that's really good at producing high quality content, high quality information, and do a conference and do as many speaking engagements as I'm starting to do, and do all of those at 100%. Something have has to give. And so we've decided that we're going to be gearing the bees down half. So we're going to be around 200 hives next year. And I don't think we're going to go past that. And we might even drop it down to 150 if we feel it's necessary and sell more nukes. We've just, we feel like we have committed to a lot of things that we have not been able to do at 100%. I'm not happy about that. And there's a lot of things that I feel like that we have an opportunity to do that other people can't. It's just like Bob and Ian. I mean, they're really excellent top of the line beekeepers. They're too busy running an operation to do a conference. And so that's where I kind of feel like I can fall into running a small professional operation and do the things they're not doing. Because if everybody who can do hundreds of hives chooses to do that, then nobody does the conferences. And I don't know. I just feel like that's something I need to focus more on, and definitely doing more videos, doing more product reviews. There's a lot of European stuff. I'm talking to a couple companies in Europe right now and going to be trying out some products that are really kind of exotic to US beekeepers and I think might inspire some innovation over here. Speaking of which, we are going to have an inventor's corner this year. So if you have invented any bee gadgets that are really beneficial and useful, bring it and show it off. there's going to be a lot of YouTubers there. And you might get, if you're wanting to sell your product in the future, you may be able to get a lot of free advertising, especially if people really like it. All right. So we'll attempt queen pheromone work till we can buy a queen in the spring. We are still new to keeping bees. Our first year of this. So I've been seeing a couple of your comments, Ravenstar, and it sounds like you're in a rough situation with your bees, and I totally understand. I've been there, and we lose hives throughout the year as well. The temp queen pheromone won't work long enough, and it's going to be a pretty rough situation for your bees to be able to survive. It is possible. I don't know how strong they are, but there's a good chance they're probably not going to make it, I'd say. Um, Definitely plan on doing some swarm traps if you can. They can work really good. And, just always plan, excuse me, don't always plan on losing all of your bees. That's for sure. But always plan on some losses. And if you have one hive, then there's a good chance you won't lose it. But if you do lose it, then you're completely out of hives and you don't have anything to work with. And I know it can be a little bit pricey to start out with, but there's some more inexpensive options like some of the Amish made equipment, catching swarm traps, those kind of things that you can do to kind of help get you to about 3 colonies to 5 colonies. Really think that's a better sustainable number. If you have a colony like this that's struggling during certain times of the year, then you have other colonies that are healthy that you can help right the ship, or at least combine those bees back with and help maybe bolster those other ones and then make a split later. Splits are so important to any operation. You're going to lose colonies. It happens. The sustainable operations are ones that make splits. And in good years, we don't lose hardly any bees. You sell off more splits, or you give one to your buddy if you don't want to sell them. In the bad years, you just keep more of them and you're sustainable. So I sorry you're having that situation, but those temp queen things don't last very long, and you'll definitely the queen usually starts brooding in Tennessee if they're a healthy colony in the first or second week of February, depending on if they're Italians, carnies, if the winter's mild, a couple different things. Will liquid taro ant bait kill high beetles if I put them in black beetle traps? I have no clue. Thomas Komet, thank you for the donation again, Thomas. Oh, oh, I don't know what to say. Yeah, I'm just thanks for the donation, Thomas. Ba-dum-dum, tsh. What is your method of record keeping on your colonies? Bernie, we really don't do a whole lot of, unless we are doing some research. Like in the past, when I've tested out oxalic acid vapor or in the experimental yard, those have to be really kept track of. But for our general operation, we don't really do anything serious about that. If there is a colony with a problem, we have lumber crayons and permanent markers, and you can take some duct tape and put it on the lids and take a permanent marker, and you can write that onto that piece of tape. And whenever it's full, you just put another piece of tape on there. There's several different ways to mark your hives. Basically, what we do, go into a yard of 40, 50 colonies, 30, whatever the number is, and the problem colonies get messages left on them. And we can take a picture of them with our phone if there's something that we need to bring, like say there's a queenless colony that needs a nuke plugged into it or something like that, or it needs a queen, or maybe it's a bad queen, and need to bring one. There are little things that we can do like that, but we don't get too awful fancy with notebooks or anything like that. Let's see here. So you do have 2 deeps full and 7 frames of capped brood. Okay, well that's a pretty decent sized hive. If a queen can come back and start laying in that, just kind of watch their food resources, make sure they have some food in there. And if the queen comes back and she can get a good round of brood in, possibly with all those bees that she has, they could do it, but it's going to have a queen come back for sure. Can bees be too warm in winter and starve out? Shane asks. Well, with that interview with Intian, who I don't know if you were able to watch that. By the way, if you were, I'm going to be doing a short little video that's going to have the information he sent me on his full presentation, so you can look through all of his data and information. So be on the lookout for that video. I'll try to have it sometime like a Monday or Tuesday, and just like a short little 2 minute video or something like that. And but he has a lot of information on that, and you definitely don't want your bees super active when they don't need to be because they just burn through resources. There's advantages and disadvantages to being in the South. One of the advantages is our bees get to get out and have cleansing flights. So we don't have to worry about roughage building up in the gut and maybe, you know, fungus or just different things that yeast problems that can grow in their guts and cause problems being in the hive without a cleansing flight. But if our bees are out flying all the time in a very mild winter, they can burn through a lot of resources. So insulation kind of it's like when you put a cover around the roots of a plant, you're insulating those roots, and it's doing two things. It's not only preventing damage to the hive, like really cold weather exposure, but it's also preventing it thawing out too quickly and getting too hot. And so there's a much smoother transition from going from point A to point B. So there's not a, oh, it's warm, let's start brood rearing. And oh, we've got this freeze coming down all the way down into Texas and setting our hives back because we lost a lot of brood during that period. So insulation, it conserves and it's smart. Now it can be expensive too. So just because it works really good in the Yukon doesn't necessarily mean we all need to be going and putting 40 R rated insulation on the top and 10s on the wall. Some of us may. But I think for me, it makes a lot of sense to have something on the lid. In the summertime, you can touch the roof of the lids of my hives, and it is so hot. And that just radiates down. And how much work am I creating for the bees because of that? So I think bees can be too warm in winter and burn through their resources. And if they don't have enough, they will starve out. If you watch his information, I believe he says a double deep goes through 60 pounds, and he has like 200 something days sometimes without, getting the bees really active. 200 days, 60 pounds. That is conservation right there. I can tell you my big colonies can go through 60 pounds here in Tennessee, and we're brood rearing with an Italian hive in November, and they're brooding back up sometimes in late January, and they'll burn through 60 pounds. So there's a lot of variables there, but insulation is why we use it in our houses. It makes things more efficient. So Paige, Texas Bees, what's the best insulation to use on a hive? A lot of times you can get that foam material. Um, I don't know a brand name in particular. I go to the hardware store and you can see it. It's like for home construction, strong foam. You want to paint it. If you don't paint it really good and there's any weaknesses in it, the bees will chip it apart and pull it apart. And so will ants and other creatures to make homes in there and tunnel through it. It needs to be painted. All right, roll tide. Thanks for coming on, Pointer Bee Farm. Is it too late to add some Apivar strips? I got too busy and didn't get them in. I also have a ProVap 110 and plan on treating my hives once they are broodless. It can't hurt to throw the Apivar strips in. I don't know exactly where you're at, but a lot of guys will use Apivar as the cleanup. What I say about treatments this late, though, is if the mites and the viruses are too have already caused a lot of damage, it doesn't matter what you use. So as long as your bees are healthy, the mites might be higher than they should be, but they haven't really taken the viruses haven't taken hold, and you can get those down quickly, you might be all right. But in a lot of cases, the mites have already done their damage at this point. So it depends on the condition of your mite loads. But either way, though, you need to make sure those mites get all the way down. So you can check them out. That's why I like the alcohol wash. I don't enjoy it, but it does really give me an idea of where I'm at. Stan Gore asks, how are you liking the Appa hives after using them for a while? They work really good. There's some pros and some cons with them. I think the upper ventilation is overkill. That's my personal opinion. Um, I wasn't keen on it from the get go. I don't really use upper ventilation in my wooden hives either, but it's not really a big deal. My bees just propolize everything, so they seal it up, and that's one other reason why over the years I felt like upper ventilation really wasn't that big of a deal. That's the way NTN feels about it, and he's up there in the Yukon. There's some variables there. I understand that, but to if you really study the science behind it, I think upper ventilation can be circumvented by having good insulation above the cluster. It's warm up there, and any moisture gets pushed to the walls away from the bees as it's supposed to work. And you get some good currents in there, which are healthy. So the ventilation in the Appa hives, in my personal opinion, and the top part is really unnecessary. It's not a deal breaker. My bees just plug it up anyways. And I like having the screen bottom board option because during the dearth period, when it's really hot in summertime, the insulated hive and the screen bottom board makes it to where they really don't beard at all. So you can definitely tell the bees aren't working near as hard during that period, and they can spend less energy, means less feed. I don't like the feeders that well, but it's not really anything against their feeders in particular. I've tried other feeders that were very similar. There's other top feeders that sit on top and you feed into, and they get in the way. I want to get in there and I want to get out. It's not that they don't work. They just aren't the type of feeder that I like. I like frame feeders because they're off to the side out of the way, or a bucket feeder you can pull off before you even get to the lid. But that's one of the things I don't like about the bucket feeder. I really don't like feeders that get in my way. I want to crack that hive and I want to be able to be done. But they work really good. And the pollen trap is awesome. For people who want to do that style of beekeeping, Appa definitely work really good. They're not a gimmick like what some people say that they are. Is it safe to reuse woodenware once you've had wax moss? Perfectly safe. Wax moss don't spread anything nasty in there. It's just they kind of rough up your equipment a little bit. And I have some old boxes that I've had for 15, 16 years or more, and they have spots where I let the wax moss in my early years take over a hive and tunnel out some spots in the boxes, and those boxes are still very valuable to me. I actually wax dipped a few of them this winter, so they'll be around a long time. But you don't have to worry about wax moss contaminating. I've heard some people say that if you have wax moss or even European foul brood, burn everything, burn everything. American foul brood's a little bit different, but um, I'm not unless I get American foul brood. I don't burn anything around here. Let's see. Trying to line up transportation and hotel accommodations for the conference. You have a list of recommendations for us. I do bullwinkled. My wife, who actually just stepped out, left a list of hotels and a link above. I'll be releasing a video on that here in the next day or two, and we do have some really good prices, all kinds of different things. Um, if you want to email me at hivelifeconference@gmail.com, I know you're coming all the way from Alaska, so I'll try to help you out a little bit. Let's see here. Do you keep your screen bottom board on or open during the winter? I don't really use screen bottom boards hardly at all, except with the Appa hives that already have them built in, and I close them off. They're not perfectly sealed off, so there still is some ventilation. It's fine. For those of you who watched the video interview with NTN, he's up in Yukon getting down to -40 on a that's very normal for their winters, -30s, -20s. He has open screen bottoms on his insulated hives. And if you understand what he's saying in his videos and how he talks about air currents, insulation, how the bees work, I'm telling you, you'll learn a lot from that video series. And I was really tickled to have him on. Randy, yeah, that video where we blew up that hive, we had been wax dipping in like 98-degree weather. It was so hot, and we just Dustin was like, "I have some tannerite. Let's see what we can do." And we just threw that together on a whim. It was not really rehearsed. The acting was terrible, but It was fun. We had some fun. This is a good question. Not that they're not all good, but this is a kind of a question I don't hear very often. That's why I like those. Any negative concerns on wax dipping used boxes painted years ago? All right, there is a couple pros and cons. First of all, the pro is any weakness in that paint, any vulnerabilities will be sealed. The biggest problem is if that paint is wanting to flake off and is not held on really good, you need to get as much of that off as you can because the last thing you want is it to chip off 6 months later and then now you have a vulnerability because the wax can't get through the paint, obviously. It can only get through the weak, the cracks in the paint. So if it's chipping, which is one of the things I hate about paint, then you'll need to scrape that off. The only other bad thing I know about it, well, it does fade the paint a little bit. So some people don't like that. To me, I'm getting a box that is going to be super well preserved. So, and I don't really care that much about looks um, as much. I mean, I'd like to have it, but I'd like my box to last another 10 years too, or 20. The only other thing I can think of is it will get on that paint and you'll have a really thin layer on the outside of the paint that will so you can feel it. If there's wood exposed, it'll soak into it, but the paint it kind of just adheres to it. And it's really weird. If you take two boxes and one's just wood and then one has been painted and you dip them exactly the same, you'll take your hands and your fingernails if it's a good wax like mine is and you'll kind of rub up against it and you'll feel almost no wax. There's just a little bit, but you can't hardly tell there's any wax. It almost just feels like wood. If you do that on the painted spots, you can actually peel it up with your fingernails. It forms a layer right there, and so it will. If you get dust on that, it'll kind of stick to that wax. Some people will take the time to scrape it off of the paint, so it's really not a deal breaker, but if you're wanting beautiful, beautiful looking hives, then this will not probably work for you. Hey, Happy Acres, speaking of someone who's going to be at the conference. So, and Happy Acres told me that they're working on a website. Kevin, have you guys got that website up or it up soon? New Zealand. All right. You guys are probably just getting in your season down there. Maybe I'm mistaken. Touchdown 34-9. All right. Woo, roll tide. Yeah, better late than never. That's for sure. Will the Appa bottom board work with the wooden boxes? So, Joe, if you watch the video that I did on the pollen trap this year, that was an Appa bottom board, and it works just like a regular bottom board, except it has screen function and a great pollen trap in it as well. It can also be used as an IPM tray for counting mites that fall down and it works really good. You don't have to worry about it rotting. I think it's made really good. That's one of the things I'm hoping that they and I kind of suggested that Appa could have possibly at the conference at a discounted rate is maybe have maybe a small percentage off on product and then maybe have that. We'll see what they do. I just talked to Korhan last week and he said they're working on a couple of different ideas. So we'll just have to see. Now, granted, oh boy. Well, everyone, I'm going to have to cut it short. We'll have way more information in the next couple of days. There's going to be a lot of information about the conference coming up. So if you're coming or thinking about coming, watch the next couple of videos coming up. I've got to get off of here. Laurel's gone, and we don't have a charge cord, and I'm at 1%. Seems like every time I do a live chat, something weird happens. Why can't I just have a normal day? Anyways, that's why my name's Kamon. That's the way it is, guys. I've got to go. I'm sorry about the abrupt. I'm gonna go. Thanks for coming on. We look forward to seeing many of you at the conference. Be watching for the experimental yard released information in November and more stuff on the way. Let the vendors you want to see there know that you want them at the conference. All kinds of stuff. And oh, there's beekeeping like a girl. She's probably laughing at me on this side of this thing. Um, she probably has every right to. Anyways, we'll see you all later. Take care. God bless you and happy beekeeping.